Right, so we're going to take a look at the for human habitation guidance for landlords. First of all, it comes in force on the 1st of December 2022 this year, as it goes, after a 6-month delay due to the Welsh Government giving social landlords, more time to get their head around it and prepare for this coming into force. So we're going to take a look at it from an electrically biased point of view, and I will only highlight the electrical information relevant to myself from my point of view, and also smoke and CO alarms within the properties, and what does that mean for yourselves. All right, so the reference documents I'm going to be using is BS 7671 Amendment 2 2018, so which came into force on the 28th of September this year. So any new electrical installation work after that date needs to comply with the new amendment of the wiring regulations. For example, if you are fitting hardwired smoke alarms within the property and it's a new circuit, it's a new addition to we then have to make sure that circuit then complies. We also need to make sure that we have fitted an SPD, a surge protective device, to protect those alarms, because it's deemed then as a safety circuit within that property. So that will protect the alarm systems from an electrical surge if there was to be one. All right. And again, there's other things that may come into play, but we won't dwell on those too much, because your contractor or electrician should be able to advise you on this. So let's take a look at the fit for human habitation. It's broken down into a number of sections, 29 subsections. So we're going to be looking at 3 of the 29 from an electrical point of view. So the first one we're going to take a look at is section 6, which is the refers to carbon monoxide. So we'll just scroll down to number 6. Now, this document is, again, my interpretation. In my opinion, it's worded very badly and could have been they could have seek more advice from specialist persons in writing this document, because it does refer to some things that were slightly out of date. So bear that in mind when I talk about parts of it. So again, section 6 refers to carbon monoxide and fuel consumption products, which produces byproducts of nitrogen oxide, sulfur, and carbon dioxide itself. So it tells you about possible links to those and causes of what can it be, and it gives you an action underneath for the landlords. What action should they take to ensure that they try and avoid any sort of malfunction of the appliance, and the best practice within the rooms where the appliances are. So it talks about making sure that the proper installation and maintenance of the fuel burning appliance, which a lot of landlords do anyway by law, because you've got to have the gas certificate, for instance, every year. And again, it makes sure that your fuel burning appliances. Now, fuel burning appliances applies to anything that consumes solid fuels, gases, and oils. And so you could have a gas boiler, a log burner in the living room, etc. So it refers to those sort of appliances. And I'm not going to refer to it because it's not my forte. So if we look at it then from an electrical point of view and the carbon monoxide alarm point of view, which we can assist with, it asks for proper siting and maintenance of carbon monoxide alarms, and regular maintenance of carbon monoxide alarms themselves. All right, so ensuring they're fitted within the property in the correct positions, and also ensured that they're maintained and tested regularly. This is something obviously can be done either by your gas engineer, who's going to test who can test the carbon monoxide alarm at the time, or you can call a specialist contractor in like myself to come out and test all the alarm systems in the property yearly if you wish. All right, and there are systems out there that can do it remotely, so you can do the access, or even the tenants can do the access and do regular testing. All right, so that's carbon monoxide. It just refers to that you must have alarms fitted. So we're going to now look at section 23, sorry, not 28, which refers to electrical hazards. So here we go, section 23, including hazards from electrical shock, burns resulting from exposure to electricity, but not associated with the risk caused by deficiencies to the electrical installation, e.g. ignition caused by short circuit. Now, what that's saying is that it's referring to directly exposed wires, poorly maintained electrical systems, where someone's got access to it or potential access to a live part that then can cause them to have electric shock or a burn from an electrical shock itself. And it's not talking about the short circuit ignition, which there are devices out there which can cover and help mitigate that sort of problem, which are AFDDs, arc fault detection devices, which we're not going to talk about too much on this because they've not specified that they need to be fitted. However, my advice would be to fit them in a rented property, because you don't know who's going to be using it. So then the use of the property, there's a lot of things that comes into consideration when fitting the appropriate protective devices. All right, so the electrical installation then, what potential actions do you need to take into account? The electrical wire installation must meet the latest requirements of the IET, the Institute of Engineering and Technology, and the British standards for the wiring regulation, which is BS 7671. As I mentioned earlier, we are now on Amendment 2 of 2018. So again, any electrical installation work that's not been designed prior to this point, the 28th of September this year, needs to meet and comply with those. And again, your contract should be fully averse with this. And again, one to highlight that SPD should be fitted when installing a safety circuit or safety circuits with fire alarms being fitted within the property. The adequate number and appropriate siting of electrical socket outlets. So this is referring to socket outlets not being too close to the floor, so you can put a plug in safely and not have it protruding when it's too close to the skirting or too close to the floor, where we've had years ago. And it's also referring to the adequate number. Now, the adequate number of sockets is contentious subject, because there's no actual sort of legislation as such. However, BS 7671, the electrical wiring regulations, in the on-site guide, which we've got here and a copy of, does give us guidance on this. I'll just zoom in a touch if we can do that. And if we look here, it refers to the adequate number. It gives you some guidance in the kitchen, habitable rooms, etc. And when it refers to the number of twin socket out, it refers to the number of socket outlets required. It refers to it as a twin socket, so a double socket on the wall. It gives you the size of the rooms. So we'll take the room under 12 square meters. A living room must have 4 double sockets, a dining room 3, a single bedroom 2, double bedroom 3, and it goes on and goes on. The kitchen then should have 6 as a minimum. So if you use this as a guideline for the adequate number of sockets within the premises, then you should be able to meet the fit for human habitation guidance. The fit for human habitation guidance here, and the adequate number of sockets and the appropriate siting. Again, older properties generally will have 1 socket per room. So if you know you've got 1 socket per room, then you are going to need to get that looked at and upgraded to meet. I would suggest use that as guidance to meet those appropriate number of sockets. Why the appropriate number of socket outlets? This is because if there's only one socket in a room, technology has moved on since the days of the invention of electricity and appliances, etc. Now everything's plugged in. So if you've only got one socket per room, generally you're going to have it. It's going to get plugged in an extension. There's going to be lots of stuff plugged into that extension. Potentially they're going to have an extension so they can get to the other side of the room potentially. So my advice again would be to use the on-site guide as I showed there, which I'll leave a link to in the description, for the adequate number of socket outlets. This again will help prevent any issues and fires with overloading of that socket, as I mentioned earlier, with the extension leads, etc. So appropriate sighting of fuse and metering equipment. Just make sure they're accessible. There's not much you can do if they're for the sighting of this, because you'd have to involve Western Power or the DNO, the distribution network operator, to re-site that equipment, and it could be very expensive. So if you've got it, potentially they're under stairs or above a doorway, just make sure they're clearly accessible for the tenants and for serviceability. The earthing arrangement, again, this will refer back to the top one, ensure that it meets the latest requirements, and we'll talk more about that in a moment's time. Making sure then that the wiring accessories in the property socket, switches, pull cord, lighting pull cords, shower pull cords are all fit for purpose. They're not cracked, damaged, etc. And making sure they're again up in good repair. And this will become more apparent as we go into section 2. It just gives a little guidance on, not putting socket outlets too close to water in the kitchen or within damp areas, again, because of obvious risks there. Larger properties, then, if you've got multiple stories, then they will have lighting protection systems. This is somewhere where you're going to have to call a specialist contractor in to ensure this has been tested appropriately and is fit for purpose. All right, and again, it guides us towards section 2, which we'll look at in a minute, and it refers to how we can meet this in more detail. All right, so we're going to scroll down and look at fire. You're probably asking why am I going to look at fire? Because it does reference a large amount to do with the electrical system within it, and then sighting of smoke alarms, etc., which I said I'd cover in the beginning. So again, the significant and appropriate sighting of electrical outlets. Again, due to the overloading of extension leads. I've visited a number of properties where an extension lead is run off an extension lead and off an extension lead. The socket outlet is then overheated. The extension lead is overheated and melted, and potentially cause is a potential ignition point for fire. So again, that's the reason for having the adequate number of socket outlets in a room. Ensuring the proper maintenance of and regular tests on the distribution board and the wiring system. So this is referring to an electrical installation condition report. If you think of it as an MOT for the electrical system, which needs to be done by a registered electrician, which again is referenced more in detail in section 2, which we'll go on to. And then the fitting of residual current devices, RCDs. Again, being the 18th edition now, we should be fitting RCBOs for segregation of circuit purposes, and which again your contractor should be able to guide you more with this. All right, and again it goes on to sighting of proper smoke alarms and regular testing, etc. All right, so if we go down and look at section 2, so we'll scroll down to section 2. Forgive me while I get there. Okay, it refers to 3 things that landlords must achieve, all right, that are imposed on landlords. It does say it just there, 3 requirements that are imposed. The first one being ensuring that the presence of smoke alarms are in proper working order, ensuring that carbon oxides, again, are sited properly and in proper working order, and to ensure that the electrical installation is inspected and tested properly. All right, and this refers to EICR. However, the document does refer to it as PTIs, and we'll look at that in a minute. PTI standing for periodic inspection test. The modern term for it now is, as I mentioned a number of times, is EICR. electrical installation condition report. Right, so if we look at the section on smoke alarm directly below, then it gives us a brief outline of why they want you to fit smoke alarms, because of high risks to tenants, etc. And it gives us guidance on what they expect from us, all right, and the type of alarms, etc. So what they fit for human habitation and requiring that smoke alarms are in proper working order to be present on every story of the dwelling. Landlords must ensure that their smoke alarms is in working order and connected to the electrical supply and interlinked with all other smoke alarms connected to the electrical supply. What does that mean? That means that the smoke alarms must be hardwired to a main supply, and it refers to it further on that they must be battery backed up. So they're going to be mains powered, battery backed up, and they must be able to talk to each other either by hardwired links, so a wire between the two alarms, or we can use an RF link as long as both alarm heads are mains powered. So you can have the alarm on the landing, for instance, mains powered from the upstairs lighting, the smoke alarm on the hallway, mains powered from the downstairs lights, for instance. But then they've got an RF module in them where they can talk, where they're interlinked via radio frequency. All right. Or again, we can have a physical hardwire linking between the two alarms. And it refers to then seek further guidance from BS 5839 Part 6. Now, this is the British standard for fire alarms. I'm going to use the EICR website because I'm an EICR installer. And if you look at the use of EICR equipment throughout Wales, 90% of social and landlords, e.g. the councils, they all fit these as standard because they can show compliance very quickly and very easily through the new audible downlink. So we're just going to jump on the EICR website and take a look at that. So first of all, what we're going to go to, what does the BS 5839 Part 6 recommend for a rented, new or existing building? So category it gives you is D1 LD2. So D1, a system of one or more alarms or one or more mains power detectors, each with a tamper-proof standby consisting of a battery or batteries. So the batteries now must be self-contained within the unit. They can no longer be the 9-volt replaceable batteries. All right. And the heat detectors should be installed in every kitchen. A smoke alarm should be installed in principal habitable rooms. Where there are more than one room might be used as a principal habitable, a smoke alarm should be fitted. Therefore, what it's saying is, as a standard, we should have hall and landing, primary living space, e.g. the living room, and the kitchen. Now, if you've got a tenant that is not very mobile and they spend a large amount of time in the bedroom, for instance, then considerations must be taken to fit an additional alarm in that room. All right. Again, this is from the British standard fire standards BS 5839. I'm just using the EICR website because it's got some great or visual representations of where you should site the alarm systems. Right. So if we go back to fit for human habitation and take a look at the carbon monoxide, again, it refers to a large amount of information on why we fit in the carbon monoxide alarms and where should we fit them. So the fit for human habitation requires landlords to ensure that a carbon monoxide alarm is present in any room which has a gas, oil, or solid fuel burning appliance installed. So, for instance, if you've got a boiler, a gas boiler in the kitchen, then you should have one fitted in a carbon monoxide, a CO alarm fitted in that room. If you have a boiler in the loft, then you will need one in the loft. However, if your boiler is located in a loft, then you will more than likely be required to fit an additional alarm in the main bedroom where the tenants are at breathing height, so at sort of sleeping height, bed pillow sort of height. This is so that if they don't hear the carbon monoxide in the loft, then if that subzone carbon monoxide filters down into those habitable rooms where they are sleeping, then they've got a secondary alarm to trigger at breathing height. So it won't be it's not on the ceiling, it is located round our bed's breathing height, which is sort of in the bedroom, would be sort of pillow height area. And then that will trigger the alarm system. All right. Again, you can it refers to these being battery operated. However, you can install with the appropriate manufacturing instructions that they can be interlinked as part of the fire alarm system. And I know EICO do this as part of their EICO 3000 series. Again, we fit these on a regular basis, and I would recommend that you fit, if you have a boiler in the loft, that you go with an interlinked mains powered system, because then it will talk to all the other relevant alarms within the property, allowing for early warning of a buildup of carbon monoxide. So let's look at the inspection and test of the electrical system. All right, and again, it refers to it as PTI, which is periodic inspection and test, now known as EICR, Electrical Installation Condition Report. So what does it asking for? It asks you to make sure that your property is up to the new regulations, that you have carried out regular EICRs on the property. So come December the 1st, you must have, or having within the grace period, a competent, qualified person to come out and carry out the electrical inspection on the property. Again, if you think of it as an MOT, you will have some advisories. You can improve it on areas. Other areas will need improvement with it very immediately, sort of thing. So, and we won't go into what is an EICR. I'll cover that on another video. And what are the codes? I'll cover that again on another video for you. But it's telling you that you should get one done. And it gives you a time limit recommendation for how long these last. So it gives you a maximum of 5 years. However, that doesn't mean that when you have an EICR carried out, that it's going to automatically be a maximum of 5 years. It could be that the electrical system is in slow disrepair. So then the inspector, using his engineering judgment, has said, I don't believe it's going to be fit for another 5 years. I'm going to drop it down to 3 years. So he's going to increase the inspection periods to prevent any risk to anyone within that property. All right. So it can be a maximum, but it's down to the engineer on using his engineering judgment on the day to put that time limit in place. All right. Now, it's worded that every property, so even if you've had a brand new property built, it's asking that you should have an EICR. All right. This is something that potentially I've disagree with. However, this is what I was asking for. This is what we must follow. All right. Again, if you are unsure if your electrician is qualified and competent, you can use the links on the Fit for Human Habitation website, which I'll leave in the description below, to go and look at the competent person's register, which if you type in your postcode and select inspector, it will bring up a number of contractors within your area who should have met the criteria for what they're asking for, qualified and competent. And you can also ask your contractor to prove that he's competent in those areas, that he is registered, and that they are registered, I should say, and they are competent, e.g. they are qualified to inspection test. Forgive me. If, however, the inspection flags up issues, then you're going to need to get these resolved to get yourself a satisfactory report. What happens? You need to provide a copy of the report, as it says here. Currently, EICR must be made available to the contract holder within 7 days of occupation. So on a new tenancy, for instance, you need to produce a new EICR, and then you need to hand that over to the tenant within 7 days. All right, and it's the same for when you've got an existing tenant within the property and you've had it done within the grace period. Within the 7 days that property being tested, you then need to hand over a copy of that installation report. Whether good or bad, you need to hand that over, and then you need to have a plan in place if you need to carry out repairs to get a satisfactory report. And again, it mentions down here, it gives you the details of the grace period on what you're going to be looking for. The dwelling, which is subsequent to an occupier with a contract from an existing contract on date of the implementation, will not be subject to requirements of a periodic inspection test for 12 months the date of issue. So you've got 12 months to get this done. My advice, get it done early. You know what you're going to be facing. Then you can resolve any issues. All right. However, again, as I stated, before a new tenancy after the 1st of December, you will then need to produce a report, from my understanding of reading it.